Alrighty, people, what's happening? We are just over an hour from Monday Night Football kickoff, and I am here to help you make some of those tough decisions for week 3, answer some trade questions, start sits questions, waiver wire, whatever you got. I'm here to help you out. So do me a favor, smash that like button on today's stream just before we get started. Got a like goal today of 50 likes. With your help, I am confident we can get there. So I appreciate y'all being here with me. I will answer questions from top to bottom. Super chats will get prioritized if there are super chats. So keep that in mind. You know, there's a lot of questions about Kareem Hunt this morning. He is visiting the Kansas City Chiefs. I'll just give you guys my opinion on the whole Kareem Hunt thing. I don't think Kareem Hunt has been good at football for quite some time. I think he's been a mediocre running back in the NFL for 2+ years now, if not more. I'd like to remind you guys that the Dallas Cowboys entered the season with Ezekiel Elliott and Rico Dowdle, and they could have picked up Kareem Hunt for free 95, and they said no. Nope. We are not going to pick up Kareem Hunt. In fact, every team in the NFL had a chance to pick up Kareem Hunt this entire offseason, and ultimately nobody was interested. Did a little research for you guys because I was curious. Let's think about this. Why was literally nobody interested in Kareem Hunt? So we did a little research for you. Shout out to Fantasy Points Data. Last year, we had 49 running backs. Okay, this is important. Fuck off, Grok. We had 49 running backs, okay, with at least 100 rushing attempts. Keep in mind here, 49 running backs last year with at least 100 rushing attempts. This is where Kareem Hunt ranked efficiency-wise. In yards per carry, he was 47th. 47th out of those 49 running backs in yards per carry. In missed tackles forced, he was 48th. Only one person was worse. In missed tackles forced per attempt, again, 48th. In yards after contact per attempt, he was the worst running back in the entire NFL last year. No running back in the NFL had less yards after contact per attempt than Kareem Hunt in the year 2023. And he also didn't make many breakaway plays or explosive dynamic plays. He was 46th in breakaway percentage. Now, look, I'm well aware that he was behind a Browns offensive line that actually isn't that bad, but I'm well aware he was in a Browns team that is not that good. I hear you guys, but even if you look last year, Jerome Ford was far more efficient than this. So I am personally not as concerned about Kareem Hunt than the average person. A lot of questions have been made of Carson Steele or Samaje Perine. My answer is, ¿por qué los dos? Just grab one of them. Why would you not want a free ticket here? This is essentially what you are holding your fab for. You know that we're going to have no Isiah Pacheco for 6 to 8 weeks, if not longer. Why would this is what you're waiting for? This is what the waiver wire is for. You want a chance to get into the dance. So I'm willing to spend. Certainly not going to go like crazy. We're not going to spend 100% of our fab. But important to note that yesterday, Carson Steele was the only running back to get early down work. He was the only running back to get goal line work between him and Samaje Perine. And he was the only running back to get short yardage work as well. So I do think that's important to note. Now, Samaje Perine played on 4 snaps before Isiah Pacheco went down with that injury. He then played 5 more snaps after that injury. So the Chiefs did not want to utilize him at all. But you got to make a call on this backfield, guys. For me, I will pick up Carson Steele. And I will pick up Samaje Perine. I will try to get both of them. I can see the idea of why you'd pick up Kareem Hunt for free. If that floats your boat, then, do that. That might be a good bet for absolutely nothing. But like we said, use this information however you see fit. But Kareem Hunt last year was the least efficient running back in the NFL, was the least explosive running back in the NFL, was the worst running back through contact in the NFL. So, just want to put that out there. You do with that whatever you like. All right, let's start answering some questions. We're going to answer them from top to bottom. Super chats will be a priority. Let's start with the first one that I can see, which is from Patrick Mahomey. Hey, fellas, got the W. First W this season. Should I drop Zach Moss for Javonte Williams? I said this last week, and I still feel the same way. I don't personally really want any part of this backfield in Denver. Happy to be wrong, but I just don't see a scenario in which you're ever consistently starting any name in Denver. Now, to be fair, Javonte Williams, his snap percentages go up. His role increases. He goes from 10 touches in week 1 to 16 touches in week 2. So I'm totally fine if you want to pick him up, but I don't know if you're ever starting him or excited about it. Next question is from Jimmy T. He says, should I start JSN over Pittman until we see the Colts offense play better? Yes, so looking at my rankings here, heading into week 3, I do have Jackson Smith and Jigba as my wide receiver 25, and I would start him over Michael Pittman. Knowing that what we saw last week is possible, I think last week, you're not going to get 16 targets for JSN every week, right? That's just not going to happen. But knowing that they targeted him that much 16 times, and he paid off that belief in him. 12 catches for 117 yards. This is what we've been waiting for. Every JSN truther out there, this is the day we've been waiting for. They said they were going to throw the ball all over the field, and I think they finally stuck to that here in week 2. All right, we do have a super chat here from I'm Nate. Appreciate you, Nate. Hey, guys, do me a favor. Smash that like button. Got a like goal today of 50 likes. And if you don't know, super chats do skip the queue. Otherwise, I am going in order from top to bottom. And the next super chat that I can see is from I'm Nate. He says, flex Brian Thomas Jr., McConkey, or Deontay Johnson. I do think we should talk about Deontay Johnson. So, obviously, the big news this week is that Bryce Young has been benched for Andy Dalton. On the outside, that is obviously sad to hear. That's not exactly what you want to see for a young guy like Bryce Young. I'm not sure he ever had a chance, but he is benched. Okay, and there's a report that came out. Panthers quarterback Bryce Young. Those close to him were very shocked at the organization's decision to bench him this morning. It came out of nowhere. So, yes, a little bit interesting, but I actually feel like this is very good for the Carolina offense. With all due respect to Bryce Young, he was playing maybe worse than any other quarterback in the NFL in the last, 16 games, 16 starts. Wanted to see some progression out of him. I think it is definitely going to destroy his confidence moving forward. But we know that Andy Dalton is able to target people. We saw this last year, actually, when Bryce Young missed a game. Adam Thielen was an incredible start because he was just getting so many targets, and they were actually catchable targets. So I do think Deontay is in play, but let me look at the options here. I just wanted to quickly go on a little ramble there. Brian Thomas is probably going to be my answer, though. So the Jaguars this week, Jags face the Buffalo Bills. They're going to have to throw the ball. We're going to go Brian Thomas Jr. Very, very close. I appreciate you, man. Thanks for the donation. Thanks for the super chat. All right, super chat, skip the queue. Otherwise, I'm going in order. The next question in order is from Mr. Green. He says, 10-man PPR super flex, trying to pick up Quentin Johnson and Braylon Allen. Which two do I drop? Zamir White, Watson, Lloyd, and Wandale. I've been dropping Lloyd and Wandale here. Definitely want to keep Marshawn Lloyd. Would love to see what he could do if he could stay healthy. Unfortunately, part of that equation he can't figure out, and that part is the staying healthy part. So, there's really no reason at this point to hold on to a name like Marshawn Lloyd if you have other options like that available. In deeper leagues, you can definitely still hold on to Marshawn. Appreciate you guys. Next question is from Akshay. He says, I just lost Kupp. Wide receiver room is now Neighbors, Amari, Bryan, McConkey, and London. It's start two wide receivers, one flex. Should I go out and make a trade? No, I would be pretty comfortable. I mean, look, you can put Neighbors in there. You can put Amari. You can flex Brian Thomas or Drake London. If Drake London decides to show up tonight, we have more confidence in him in week 2. So, no, I think you should hold on to Cooper Kupp, and you should, let this one ride out. Who do I pick up if I have Cooper Kupp? You know, we talked about this on the waiver wire video. I am more aggressive towards Jordan Whittington than the average person, and I understand people's concerns, but Jordan Whittington was the direct replacement for Cooper Kupp. If you look in the second half, Cooper Kupp didn't come back. In the second half, Jordan Whittington played every single snap. So I'm pretty encouraged to see that. I think Jordan Whittington is a very sneaky stash. I've already got him in a couple leagues before this week, but I definitely think he should be considered. What's up, Malik? How cooked is Christian Kirk? Am I still a Caleb Williams believer, and am I delusional? First off, I appreciate the donation, Malik. He is skipping the queue with that donation. Thanks for the support, man. So Malik says, how cooked is Christian Kirk? Look, Christian Kirk, it's not looking good for old Christian Kirk. I mean, we're talking about a guy who was reliant on targets, a slot exclusive type of player. I mean, he does play outside a little bit, but he's mostly a slot player. And we're talking about a guy who's averaging 3.5 targets per game. I don't know how much better it gets for him. This is pretty much rock bottom. But if you're the Jags organization, if you are Trevor Lawrence, why would you not do everything in your power to continue to build the chemistry between yourself and Brian Thomas Jr.? So I do think there will be games where Christian Kirk is a viable option, but I don't think he's a weekly start at any point right now moving forward. And as far as Caleb Williams goes, look, it's far too early to make any conclusions about any rookie quarterback. You know, I can sit here as a Commanders fan and tell you, well, Jaden Daniels is the best rookie quarterback so far. And, you know, the stats would tell you that. He's looked very good. He's made good decisions. Hasn't been as aggressive down the field as you'd want him to be, but he's played well. But even in that scenario, we can't make any conclusions. It's only been 2 weeks. So I am not ready to give up on Caleb Williams, but it is definitely concerning to see. Here's the good news. He has Indianapolis next week. Indianapolis is not a secondary that really concerns you. So that could be a game where we could see Caleb Williams actually break out. He's got the Rams after that, who just got destroyed by Kyler Murray. He's got the Carolina Panthers after that. So he's got a really good stretch of games. And let's give him at least a half a season before we are, you know, making conclusions. I would even say we need to give him more than just half a season. But no, I think this is the concern. You know, we dropped a video about this in the offseason saying be very careful drafting wide receivers attached to rookie quarterbacks. Historically, it's not a good bet. The reply to that comment or to that video was mostly, well, Caleb Williams is different. He's just a god. And I was like, okay, look, just know you're making a tough bet. So, look, definitely too early to give up on Caleb Williams. I appreciate the donation. Super chats do skip the queue. Otherwise, I'm going in order. Be a friend. Smash that like button. We got a like goal today of 50 likes. We're already halfway there. I appreciate you guys big time. The next question is from Boxed Out. He says, my wide receiver 2 is JSN, but should I put him at the flex? Who should I put the flex? Madison or Alec Pierce? Yeah, look, I mean, I don't really want to ever start Alexander Madison. I'm not going to lie to you. If you're going to start him any week, it's probably this week versus the Carolina Panthers. However, you've also got a name like Alec Pierce, who in back-to-back weeks scores a touchdown, over 16 points. And this week, he led the team in targets. He led the team in routes run and snaps for amongst wide receivers. So I'd be fine to throw Alec Pierce out there because you know what his ceiling is. But I would not be shocked at all if Alec Pierce comes out and has a 0 burger. Like, I genuinely still feel like that is possible for Alec Pierce to come out and give you 0 points. So, especially when you got passes from Anthony Richardson coming in. How do we feel about Garrett Wilson? I think we should feel very good about Garrett Wilson. It is not panned out just yet for fantasy football, but he is getting a high percentage of the targets. He's out there. That connection has got to figure itself out. You know, maybe he has a top 15 ceiling rather than a top 5 ceiling like a lot of people thought he would have. But I think you should be very optimistic about him moving forward. Still getting a good amount of looks, first read targets, etc. What's up, Brian? He says, full PPR league, my running backs are Mason, Monty, and Pacheco. Do I try to package Mason and McLaurin for Jonathan Taylor given the Pacheco news? Mason, Monty, and Pacheco. Do I try and package Mason and McLaurin for Jonathan Taylor? That's a good question. I mean, do you really want to start, like, just thinking from the perspective of, like, the next 4 weeks, would you really want to start Jonathan Taylor over Jordan Mason? Because if I was to give you my rankings for the next 4 weeks, Jordan Mason would be much higher than Jonathan Taylor. Yeah, I'm kind of indifferent on this one, to be honest, man. Overall, look, I'm fine with the deal. You know, if you want to get a little more security, but I'm not obsessed with the idea. I did get a super chat here from Anthony, so Anthony's skipping the queue. I appreciate you, Anthony. Thanks for the donation, man. Very kind of you. Your first super chat, man. Very kind. Thanks for doing it here. He says, Shaheed, they give Drake London. Do I accept? So you're getting Drake London. You are sending Rashid Shaheed. Is that the question? So it's a little bit of a wild card right now, considering Drake London was an absolute nightmare in week 1. But I am willing to take that wild card personally. I know Rashid Shaheed has been great so far, but I'm still not of the belief that you can just start him every week regardless of matchup. And again, happy to be wrong. I just feel like I'm waiting for the shoe to drop with Derek Carr. I feel like I'm waiting for the shoe to drop with this offense. So I could be wrong. Maybe I'm holding too firm onto everything we've seen in his entire career, and maybe he's now changed. But yes, I am willing to take the Drake London side of that. I mean, ultimately, you are making a wild card pick here because London did not look good in week 1, but I think that changes, so I would prefer Drake London here in this trade. I appreciate the support, though. I appreciate the donation. Very kind of you, man. All right. The next non-super chat is from, let's see, Donald. I think he says, good evening, my ninjas. Or it's from Joel, sorry. What's the question here? Should I look to trade for a solid RB2, spot start every week? I think you have enough names in there to spot start every week, my brother. I got offered Metcalf for Dobbins. Should I accept? J.K. Dobbins is interesting, guys, because his role definitely grew in week 2, which was what you wanted to see. But he has a really tough upcoming schedule. He's got Pittsburgh in week 3. I'd love to actually look at this. What is Pittsburgh currently giving up to running backs? So currently Pittsburgh is 26th in points allowed to running backs. They're giving up the 7th fewest. Then he has Kansas City on the schedule, which they're giving up the 6th fewest. So he's got 2 defenses in back-to-back weeks upcoming that are top 8 against running backs. That's a little concerning to me. You can get DK Metcalf there. I'll take DK Metcalf, especially if your running back room is deep enough. But I think J.K. Dobbins could have a couple bad games, and he could be a huge buy candidate after his bye week in week 5. After that, he faces Denver and Arizona. We did get a super chat from Jonathan. Appreciate you, Jonathan. He is skipping the queue here with this donation. He says, drop Christian Watson for Ray, Naylor, or Tyler Johnson. None of those options. I would keep Christian Watson. If the question is just right now, rest of season, I would much rather just keep Christian Watson. Remember, Jordan Love should be back at some point. Definitely want to roster Tyler Johnson, but if that's your question, Jonathan, like rest of season, I'd rather still keep this unknown wild card with Jonathan Santiago. Or sorry, with Christian Watson. I don't know why I said your name. Thanks for the donation, man. I appreciate you. Hey, guys, super chats do skip the queue. Otherwise, I'm going in order. I appreciate you guys for being here. Got a like goal today of 50 likes. We're almost there. Be a friend. Smash that like button. The next question, though, that's not super chat, is from Chilled Minds. Waddle and Kyron for Chase and Walker. Give me Chase and Walker here pretty easily. I'm not going to lie to you guys. Without Cooper Kupp, without Puka Nacua, I have a lot of concern for Kyron Williams. He's also been wildly inefficient thus far. Touchdowns have saved him in back-to-back weeks. I'm not sure how good that offense will be. Definitely give me Chase and Walker pretty easily there. All right, we got a super chat from Julius. I appreciate the donation, my man. He is skipping the queue with this donation. He says, "What's up, Brody? I have Kyler as my backup. What do you think of shopping Anthony Richardson and running with Kyler as my quarterback one?" Love it. Love it, love it, love it, love it. In fact, we have been saying that kind of, we've been trying to encourage people to do that since before the season even began. If you have two names that every week you're not sure who to start, every week you're going to be disappointed. Shop one of those names and try and improve the rest of your roster. So absolutely, Julius, I would want to do that. Now, you might have to wait at least one more week because Anthony Richardson had maybe his, not even maybe, 100%, he had his worst game ever as a professional quarterback. 3 interceptions. But it might not get better because Chicago and Pittsburgh are on the schedule up next. But yeah, if you can use Anthony Richardson to upgrade at running back or wide receiver, then I am all about that. I'm totally open to that. I appreciate the donation, my man. We got another super chat here from, I'm going to call you Prez because I have no idea how to say that name. But I do appreciate the donation. You are skipping the queue with that one. He says, what to do with Rachaad White? Dowdle and Allen from the Jets are on the waiver wire. Running backs are Stevenson, Monty, Chandler, Chase Brown, and Justice Hill. So Rachaad White is a strong hold right now. I mean, we talked about him on the players that you might be panicking about stream after the second slate of games. But here's the good news if anybody out there owns Rachaad White. In week 3, he has the Denver Broncos. Denver has been a very good matchup in the last couple of years. And this year they are top 10 in points allowed to running backs. So the hope if you own Rachaad White is that he goes off versus the Denver Broncos and you have a real sell high opportunity. But this isn't breaking news to any of you. Okay, test. Y'all can hear me now, can't you? Okay, so what we were trying to say there, guys, is that Rachaad White played 70% of the snaps in week 1. He had almost 17 PPR points. In week 2, he played 71% of the snaps. The targets just weren't there. Now he faces the Denver Broncos. It's a very good matchup. If you have Rachaad White, it's you can't sell Rachaad White after a 3-point game. That's just bad practice, okay? But as far as the waiver wire, I would be looking to pick up Braylon Allen, and I'd be comfortable to drop Justice Hill. Hopefully that is helpful. I appreciate the donation. Very kind of you, man. All right, we got another donation here from Hello Tez, so they are skipping the queue with these donations. Thank you for supporting the channel. He says, should we panic on Tank Dell yet? Yeah. Week 1, Tank Dell, there were so many encouraging signs. In week 1, he ran as many routes as Stephon Diggs. He ran in Nico Collins. With Nico Collins, was even in targets. Then in week 2, things got a little ugly. Things got more than a little ugly. Things got very ugly. Let me pull this up for us, actually. In week 2, I believe he had 4 targets. Not good, Bob. Not good. Let's have a look, shall we? So in week 2, he gets 4 targets, but I am going to go glass half full when I'm looking at a name like Tank Dell. I'll tell you why. Mainly because he did run as many routes as Stephon Diggs. He ran 33 routes, and Nico Collins ran 36. He was still out there for 43 snaps. Stephon Diggs was out there for 50. Collins was out there for 52. So keep in mind, guys, it's so easy in the first 2 weeks of the season to make solid conclusions, but there is so much football left to be played. Remember, we said that this entire wide receiver room, there will be boom games throughout this season, okay? So in week 1, Stephon Diggs got 2 touchdowns. He had a boom game. In week 2, Stephon Diggs looks like the alpha. Clearly, if you're going to rank them rest of season, Nico Collins is going to be number 1. But yes, I still believe Tank Dell is going to have boom games. So you need to be a little bit patient with it. He's still running as many routes as those other guys. He touched the ball 7 times, which is good to see. But yes, I would be patient with him. I certainly wouldn't be selling him at this point. I do still expect Tank Dell to have boom games. Nico Collins looks like the most bust-proof on a week-to-week basis of any of these names, but Tank Dell is still going to have games. I promise you, there will still be games where Tank Dell goes absolutely crazy, and you're a little bit disappointed by a Collins or a Diggs. It's going to happen. Because all these guys are very good receivers, and they're attached to a good quarterback, and they're all playing a high percentage of snaps. They can all get open. So yeah, don't panic too much on Tank Dell just yet. I would be cautious panicking at all. All right. I appreciate the donation though. Guys, super chats do skip the queue. Otherwise, I'm going in order. I appreciate y'all for being here with me. Be a friend. Smash that like button. We got a like goal of 50 likes. Oh, we've already reached it. Appreciate you guys. Thanks for hitting the like goal with me. All right. Next question that's non-super chat. We're going from top to bottom unless there's a donation. And Jimmy says, are you worried about Richardson? Yeah, we've been worried about Richardson for a while, though. As far as playing the NFL quarterback position, yes, absolutely. Am I worried about him being a good fantasy quarterback? No, he'll be a good fantasy quarterback. This is like Justin Fields 2.0. He's going to be good for fantasy, but are you going to want to watch the game? I don't know. Maybe not. Kyler should be a great start rest of season. Absolutely. There is no reason to not think that I think he could be a top 5 quarterback rest of season. I certainly think that's a possibility. I can't believe I have to say this every stream, but if you are going to spam your question in the chat, you will get put in timeout. All right? What happens in class when there's a kid who won't stop talking and the teacher's trying to teach? You got to say, hey, Billy. Everybody wants to get their question answered. Okay, Billy? Let's put you in timeout. Think about your actions. You can come back in 5 minutes, okay? Nobody's question is more important than anyone else's. If you spam, it makes me want to answer your question less. Honestly, I don't know why people think it once you, oh, look, this person's being annoying. Let me answer his question. No, that's just not how it works, okay? Sorry for the transparency. If you're going to spam, I'll put you in timeout. You're welcome to come back to the stream, but don't spam. And, of course, Super Chat's available if you really need something desperately answered. Next question is from Styles. Says, so who is healthy? Nobody. Nobody is healthy. Next question is from Nate. Oh, wait, never mind. Jerry says, with Kupp out and Debo, who do I start? Juwan Jennings or Demarcus Robinson? Good Lord. You're in a tough spot, man, but I would go Demarcus Robinson still. I don't envy you at all being in that position. But the good news for Demarcus Robinson, he had 4 targets. That's most of anyone not named Cooper Kupp. He ran the most routes, had the most snaps, so there is hope moving forward. We got another question here from London. He says, feeling happy I took Mike Evans round 2. Sad I didn't take Nico Collins instead, though. And Nico Collins looks like a great pick right now. Absolutely, he looks fantastic. Thoughts on Laporta? We talked about Laporta on last night's stream. We're not going to panic just yet. Keep in mind, Sam Laporta was dealing with a couple knick-knack injuries himself. I think he's going to be just fine. They're going to figure it out. Michael says, I was skeptical about my Kamara pickup, and OMG, he has been insane. Yes, Alvin Kamara, my guy for me. Couldn't understand why he was going in the 4th and 5th round this year. It made no sense. If you drafted Alvin Kamara like me, you're feeling pretty good about it right now. I don't understand why no one was drafting him. I really don't get it. Joel says, will Kincaid bounce back? Yeah, Kincaid, I feel like if you have Kincaid, you should feel, to me, thinking about every tight end this last week, I feel more confident in Kincaid than I do Travis Kelce. I feel more confident in Kincaid than I do Mark Andrews. So I feel like you should be relatively optimistic if you own Dalton Kincaid. Why? Because in the first drive, they made it very obvious they wanted to target Dalton Kincaid. They force-fed him targets. And then what happened in the rest of the game? They didn't need him. There was not a single point in that Dolphins game where they needed to throw the ball. So, yeah, I think you should be, have some confidence. Is Brock Bowers a top 5 tight end rest of season? I do think he is, yeah. If I look at my rest of season rankings, I'd have him, I'm embarrassed to say this, but I'd have him tight end 2. I don't know if that's overreaction, but I mean, why would he not be a top 3 tight end rest of the season? I don't get why I would be embarrassed to say that, but I guess I am. Averaging 8.5 targets through 2 weeks. Yeah, absolutely. Londonville says, I have Evans, McLaurin, and Cooper. Thinking of trading Jacobs or Montgomery plus Cooper or McLaurin to the 0 RB guy who has Adams, Hill, and Harrison. Thoughts? Not totally opposed to it. Not totally opposed to it. But I guess it depends on what the final deal actually looks like. Style says, not much, man. Blowing up my team in Nintendo League. I love it. T. Higgins, let's see. We have to monitor his practice reports throughout the rest of the season. Yes, Jameson is definitely a comfortable start rest of season. In fact, if we're looking at rest of season rankings, I'd rather have Jameson Williams over T. Higgins, Keenan Allen, Tank Dell, Waddle, Pittman, Ridley, Reed, Amari Cooper. Yeah, I think he's a fantastic start. Mike Evans or Shakir? You're starting Mike Evans. Raiders D or Bucks D in week 3. Yeah, those are the 2 names I suggested to pick up on the waiver wire. And now that Carolina, is not starting Bryce Young, that was a big reason we love the Raiders. We still like them. But I almost feel like the Buccaneers are a better start. I do think Andy Dalton is going to be able to have a competent offense formed here. So, yeah. That's a good question. I do slightly lean the Bucks now. Yes, Scribbles, he's looked very good. D-Rose says, start Amari versus the Giants or Zamir versus the Panthers. Yeah, that's a great question. Oddly enough, I do think Zamir White has a really good chance to have a great game in week 3. If you drafted Zamir White, this might be the only week you can confidently start him for the rest of the season. Truly. And, I said Alvin Kamara wasn't my guy. I'll also take my L. Zamir White was also my guy at his price. I just thought it made a lot of sense just to take a shot on him because we were supposed to see a bunch of volume. That's not been the case. But I'll probably go Zamir there in that matchup. We did get a super chat from Bandito. So Bandito is skipping the queue with that donation. Appreciate you, man. Thanks for supporting the show. And Bandito says, Sam Laporta, should I hang in there? Yes. If you have Sam Laporta, it is far too early to give up on Sam Laporta. I know it's been 2 weeks. It's been rough. But you've got a couple really good matchups upcoming. Arizona's defense is not that good. Seattle's defense is, mediocre, middle of the pack at best. I do think Sam Laporta is still going to be a fine options moving forward. Now, we weren't drafting Sam Laporta anywhere near his ADP, which was the second round. We just didn't feel comfortable doing that. But yeah. And I'll say this, by the way, guys, with Zamir White, I genuinely think that if you have him and you're in a deeper format, I honestly think he's in play this week. Keep in mind, this is coming from someone who last week told you do not start Zamir White. Versus Baltimore, we said we have no confidence to start Zamir White, okay? But I actually think there is reason for optimism. I genuinely do think there is. Number one, he played 63% of the snaps in week 2. In week 1, he played 38%. So that number skyrocketed up. Number 2, his targets went up, all right? He wasn't used at all in passing down scenarios in week 1. In week 2, he was pretty consistently used in passing down scenarios. Why am I even talking about Zamir White? I don't even know why I am. But anyway, yes, I think Zamir White, there is reason for optimism. And this is the only matchup I think you can start him when I look at his schedule until like week 10. So if you have him, I think he's an option. All right, we got a super chat from Chuba. I appreciate the donation, my man. Super chats do skip the queue, guys. Otherwise, I'm going in order from the top to the bottom. And Chuba says, Kyron and Rice or Bijan and Ridley. Man, guys, so I made a video this week. I was scared to start Calvin Ridley versus the Jets. He went out and he smashed it. I was wrong. Can I have to ask the chat a question right now, guys. To anybody out there who actually watched the Titans play football this week, are you more confident in Calvin Ridley today than you were last week? I have no more confidence in Calvin Ridley today than I did last week. Am I the only one? Am I stuck in take lock? Like, honestly, I want the chat to tell me. Do you have more confidence in Calvin Ridley today than you did last week? I don't. So, I know I was wrong on, that the Jets weren't a great start. He went off. But I don't know, dude. I still do not have any confidence in him rest of season. That's what's making this question tough. Man, Bijan is probably the best player. Man. I need the chat's help here. I need to phone a friend. Guys, Kyren and Rice or Bijan and Ridley. I need to phone a friend here. I don't know. Let's get a consensus answer here. Kyren and Rashee Rice or Bijan and Ridley. I'm sorry. I still don't believe in Calvin Ridley rest of season. Man, what is wrong with me? Why can't I get on board? I just can't get... The reality, I just feel like what's happening right now is just so tough to replicate for Calvin Ridley. If you actually watch the Titans play this week, what part of his game was replicable on a week-to-week basis? Man. And I'll be honest. I feel like you have to keep Kyren or the Bijan side. I really feel like you got to keep the Bijan side. Wow, that is tough. That is tough. Chuba, I've not had a more difficult question this week. We're gonna stick with Bijan because he's the most valuable player in this deal. But man, guys, like I know Rashee Rice, another my guy. All right, I took the L on Zamir White, but we're talking about the my guys that have hit so far: Alvin Kamara, Rashee Rice. Rashee Rice so far is a wide receiver 12, and this team is probably gonna pass the ball more than they have moving forward because there is no Isiah Pacheco. I mean, Rashee Rice has top 8 finish ceiling now. No Hollywood, no Pacheco. How many times are they going to throw the ball in Kansas City? This would be so easy if the Rams were all healthy. Oh my gosh, man. Kyren Williams has been so inefficient. How do they not get Blake Corum in there at some point? Now he's got to face San Francisco, then Chicago. Oh my God. I don't know, dude. That's such a difficult one. Oh, I'm gonna roll with Bijan here, but I don't like it. I don't like it at all. I really don't. All right, Andrew with the donation. I appreciate you, man. He's skipping the queue with this super chat. He says, rate my team. Tua, waiver wire quarterback. Okay, right. So you're gonna pick up someone off the waivers, obviously. CD, Chase, JT, Pollard, Laporta, Rice, Kirk. Do I start Demarcus Robinson over Kirk? Yeah, I would. And maybe pick up Hunt. Look, guys, if you're looking at the Chiefs running back, I said this on the stream earlier, but I would put Carson Steele and Samaje Perine in the same tier. I would not have Kareem Hunt in that same tier. So if you want to pick him up as a freebie, sure, but I'm not spending fab on Kareem Hunt. But yeah, as far as quarterback, yeah, you definitely need to pick up a waiver wire quarterback. I don't know who's available, unfortunately, after seeing this. But yeah, I'd be comfortable picking him up for free. But this is a good team. I mean, just get a quarterback in there. Get a Justin Fields in there. You know, throw Derek Carr in there and ride the wave until the wave drowns you. You know, pick up Baker Mayfield. Shoot, I started Baker Mayfield in the Flock League this week, and it worked out. Stafford is no longer viable. Yeah, Stafford's a really bad play now, actually. We got to keep that in mind. I'm going to update my rest of season rankings there. Stafford is a terrible play rest of season. Watch him throw like 4 touchdowns next week. But yeah, definitely pick up a quarterback. I would start DeMarcus Robinson over Kirk personally. And if you can pick up Kareem Hunt, do it for free, but don't spend a bunch of fab on it. All right, we got another super chat here from SD. Appreciate you, SD. Thanks for the donation. You are skipping the queue here with that donation. And it's your first super chat. Thank you. Very kind. Very, very kind. Drop Diggs or Pickens for Rashid or Jameson. Oh, my goodness. We must be in like an 8-team league here. Drop them both for Rashid and Jameson. Wow. Okay. No, I'm not dropping. Wow. How are you supposed to make these decisions? Oh, my goodness. What does your waiver wire look like? That's kind of crazy to think about. So between Rashid and Jameson, I would want to roster Jameson. I can't imagine telling you to drop Pickens or Diggs, though. I just can't imagine doing that. But if I look at my rest of season rankings, I do have Jameson Williams ahead of George Pickens. It's by 1 spot in my rankings, so I don't feel super confident telling you to do that because obviously George Pickens is the alpha in his offense. But I mean, look, I'm open to it. I would prefer Jameson over Pickens rest of season. That's a very difficult thing to tell you to drop a wide receiver that's rostered in pretty much every format. I do appreciate the question, SD. Very, very kind of you for donating. We got another super chat here from Angel. Amon-Ra for Pollard and Ayuk. Love Ayuk. I think he's going to bounce back. If you have Brendan Ayuk, I do feel like the Deebo Samuel injury is actually very good for you because they're going to be forced to give Ayuk targets. There's no reason why Ayuk can't average 7 to 9 targets per game when Deebo Samuel's out. But we're talking about an Amon-Ra St. Brown, a player who is capable of giving you 19 targets on any given game. I'm sorry, I cannot trade away Amon-Ra St. Brown. I can't do it. I just can't. I can't trade away Amon-Ra. I won't do it. I refuse. I'm sorry. It's probably a good deal. It probably is. I'll say this. If you're in a really deep format, like 14-team league, then I would do it. But in a 12-man, I'm sorry. I just got to keep Amon-Ra. I want guys who can get 19 targets on any given week. All right, we got a super chat from G Particle, so they are skipping the queue with this donation. I appreciate you, G. Thanks, G. Thanks, Oos. And the question is, Braylon or is that Ty Chandler maybe, rest of season? So I am going to go Braylon Allen myself. There's a lot of opinions out there on Braylon Allen, and I can understand. A lot of people are telling me that Braylon Allen only got work because Breece Hall was dealing with an injury. I think that's a bit silly, personally. There's not a moment Braylon Allen has stepped on the field where he hasn't looked incredibly good. Why would you not get Braylon Allen the ball? Now, I'm not telling you that Braylon Allen's RB1 in New York. That's ridiculous. But I do think he's going to get opportunities. And I talked about him on the waiver wire video today. I said, remember, Aaron Rodgers has had multiple running backs be good for fantasy in his backfield before. We saw that with A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones. And so many people in the comments were like, oh, A.J. Dillon, One guy literally commented, I stopped watching the video because you said A.J. Dillon. Like, oh, thanks, champion. But people forget, A.J. Dillon was actually really serviceable for a long time. He really was. And that's the comparison I was trying to make. A.J. Dillon, early on A.J. Dillon. Not the last A.J. Dillon you've seen for the last couple of years. But A.J. Dillon was like a top 24 running back. He was a serviceable RB2. So Braylon Allen is already one of the best handcuffs in the entire NFL. And there's a chance that he develops a larger role, yeah, I'd like to stash him. And then Polk, Tolbert, or Naylor rest of season. At this point, I think because this is really a mystery box question, I would pick up Jalen Tolbert. We're talking about a guy who led the Cowboys in targets in week 2, a guy who's been talented, has just never broken out. He was the potential Michael Gallup replacement the year they drafted him, but finally a starter, finally putting in the work, getting the targets, running an insane amount of routes per game. So, yeah, I'll pick up Jalen Tolbert there. All right. We've got Frizzle here. I appreciate the donation, man. Frizzle skipping the queue with that donation. And Frizzle says, my wide receivers are Olave, Ridley, Smith, Demarcus Robinson, Yeshivas, 14-man waiver wires with Jalen Naylor, Tolbert, Wicks, Tutu. To me, this is definitely Jalen Tolbert. Guys, in a 14-man league, Jalen Tolbert could be found gold. Like, he truly could be found gold. So I'm absolutely picking up Jalen Tolbert in a 14-man league. Ultimately, you guys have to keep in mind that you have to miss sometimes on the waiver wire to hit on the waiver wire. You know, that's why we talked about Carson Steele earlier on the stream. That's why we talked about Samaje Perine. That's why we've talked about Jordan Whittington heavily in today's waiver wire video. That's why we've talked about Braylon Allen. That's why we also talked about Jalen Tolbert. Yes, clearly the players, this is what's funny about the stash video I release every week. People are like, these guys are probably not going to do anything. No shit. The players that nobody's rostering are probably not going to be fantasy league winners. Okay, breaking news, right? But that's not the point of the waiver wire. Stop viewing the waiver wire as like players that you are drafting, okay? The waiver wire is trying to hit free money. So you got to spend a little to make a little. You got to go broke money, don't make money type of mentality at times. We don't want to waste fab, but we certainly want to be in the dance. We got to buy a ticket to see the comedian go, right? So ultimately, a name like Jalen Tolbert is super interesting to me. I know it's only 1 week, but for him to get 9 targets or 8 targets, whatever it was, to lead the team in targets, to lead the team in routes run, to lead the team in snaps amongst wide receivers, to have good beat reporters out of camp this offseason say he was doing the work, that's enough for me to spend on Jalen Tolbert in a deeper format. We just had a question where a guy said, should I pick up Jameson Williams off the waivers? Clearly, in that league, you're not picking up Jalen Tolbert. But in a 14-man, absolutely. You got to be in the dance to have a chance. So, I would be willing to pick up Jalen Tolbert there. In a 14-teamer, honestly, I'd probably spend 25 to 35% of my fab just to see what that could be, honestly. So hopefully that's helpful. And again, you're going to miss sometimes on the waiver wire, guys. You are. There's a reason these players are not rostered. We got to keep that in mind. All right. I appreciate the donation, though, Frizzle. We did get another super chat here from Tyler. This is his first super chat on the stream. I appreciate you, Tyler. Tyler is skipping the queue with this donation. If you guys want to skip the queue, super chat is an option, not an obligation, obviously. But I can see you're in euros. So you're across the pond somewhere. Where are you? Where are you across the pond? That's what I want to know. He says, trade Breece Hall and Brian Thomas for Saquon and Puka. Oh, that is interesting. I don't think you can. I really don't think you can. I just don't think you can do it because it is week 2, about to be week 3. Excuse me. And you might not have Puka for the next 5 weeks still. Can you go 5 weeks without an option like Brian Thomas in your lineup? That's the question you have to answer. If Brian Thomas is someone that you're consistently starting, you have to think about this. If you trade for Puka, you will not have a Brian Thomas level player to flex or to play at your wide receiver position for at least 4 to 5 weeks. Personally, in my leagues, I couldn't afford to do that. We are in some bigger leagues, though. So, yeah, I think if you could do this trade in 2 weeks from now, it makes a lot more sense, because Puka is getting closer to a return. But right now, I just think it's too risky. And he says he's from the Netherlands. That's awesome. So you must be a Max Verstappen fan, is what I imagine. Let me know if you're into Formula One. Maybe you're not. Maybe you're like, I actually don't care. But I feel like everybody in the Netherlands knows who Max is. All right. Thanks for the donation. We are answering questions from top to bottom. Super chats do get prioritized. The next question in order is from Jerry, who says, Shakir over Jawan and Robinson, Bills or Chargers D. Okay, so we are going to start Shakir. Let me remember who they play this week. Who did the Bills play this week? Remember, come on. They play the Jags. So Shakir's in play for sure. But you have to choose between Shakir and Demarcus Robinson. I do think I go Demarcus Robinson versus the Cardinals. I think it is a matchup where he is set up to succeed. But that's a close one. Troy says, yo, 12-man PPR. 2 flex, traded London, Deontay, Javonte for Tyreek and Tolbert. Other wide receivers are Rice, Godwin, and J-Mo. Okay, traded London, Deontay, and Javonte for Tyreek and Tolbert. I'm not anti this move. Right now, I don't know if you guys remember, but we did a stream right after the whole Tyreek Hill situation, Tua tag situation. Remember that game versus the Bills, Thursday Night Football? We went live right after. A lot of guys were telling me that Tua was going to retire. I just said, look, I just don't see him doing that. I get that you guys think he should do that for his health. I don't see why Tua would retire right now. He's a very competitive dude. Football is his life. I think his mental health would take a huge hit. Now, if you kept Tyreek Hill, you should feel very good about that because it sounds like Tua will be back in the near future. But this is what we don't know. When is that near future? If Tua plays in 1 week from now, let's say he misses one game, then yeah, absolutely. If Tua's back in week 10, then you will have regretted this trade. So it's hard to say at this point, right? Is it true Debo's out a few weeks? Yes. We did get a report recently that Debo is going to miss a couple weeks. Let me read that for you guys. Kind of shocking, kind of out of nowhere a little bit, right? But yes, he will miss a few weeks with a calf strain. What is going on in San Francisco? What's going on with people's calves in San Francisco? Something's in the water. Clarence, what's up, man? Says, I just traded Debo and Ramondre for Tyreek and Aaron Debo? Is that Aaron Jones and Debo? Aaron Jones, maybe? Debo and Ramondre for Tyreek and Aaron Jones, right? Yeah, you just got to keep them now. Nothing you can do right now. All right, what's up, Joel? Appreciate the super chat, Joel. Thanks, Jolie. I appreciate you, man. Very kind of you for this donation. He is skipping the queue here. And he says, trade Tyreek for Rasheed and DK 12-team full PPR start 7. Start 7 is tough. See, this is another question where we kind of have to predict the future. So, what's your conviction, Joel? Do you believe that Tua is going to be back in week 4? Week 5? Then I think you keep Tyreek Hill. But is Tua going to be back in week 10? Then you definitely want the Rashee Rice side of this deal. Here's what I'll say. I do think Kansas City is going to pass the ball more than they intended to this year. And with Hollywood Brown out, with no Isiah Pacheco, Rashee Rice has like a top 6 ceiling this year. I really think he does. It really comes down to your conviction there. Start 7 is so small, though. Yeah. Joel, that's a tough one, man. I just wish I knew when Tua was going to be back, because that would answer the question for me. I'll say this: if Rashee and DK are going to be instant starts for you, I'm happy to do this deal. What do I mean by that? So if you trade for Rashee Rice and DK Metcalf, are you going to be having to make weekly decisions in your flex or at your wide receiver position between Metcalf and another name? Because if that's the case, I'll keep Tyreek. But if Rashee and DK are both just going to go straight into your lineup and you're going to start them every week, then I'll trade for Rashee there. All right, we got another super chat here from JM. Appreciate you, JM. This is JM's first super chat on the stream. Very kind of you. And JM says, 12-man PPR, drop Palmer for either Tolbert or Naylor. Yeah. Well, Palmer's droppable in my opinion. I don't know if you guys agree or disagree with me. But I think Palmer's droppable. Certainly in smaller formats. I mean, through 2 weeks, his best performance was 3.9 fantasy points. He is dealing with an injury. Quentin Johnston is breaking out. Ladd McConkey is breaking out. Yeah, I definitely think you can drop Palmer, and I would prefer to pick up Jalen Tolbert there. But, again, with the understanding that Tolbert could totally not work out. But that's the point of the waivers, right? You want to get a shot here. All right, Jay Fiasco with a super chat. I appreciate you, man. 12-team, half PPR, got Kupp, Waddle, Flowers, JSN, Addison, and Bijan, JK, Javante. What's the question here? Thoughts on general trade targets? First off, thank you for the donation. This is apparently your first super chat. You got Kupp, Waddle, Flowers, JSN, Brian Thomas, Addison, and Bijan, JK. At least you got JK Dobbins, man. You should feel great about that. You would have hit on that draft pick. And you have Braylon Allen. That's great. Well, with Cooper Kupp, so let me ask you. I'm in a position in my home league where I have Cooper Kupp as well. But I am going to be 2-0. So this is my team in this league where I have Cooper Kupp, all right? We got Dak starting. Yeah, it's not great, but it's working. We've got Jonathan Taylor, Stevenson, Neighbors, Rice. Not really figured out the tight end position just yet. Saquon. We had Cooper Kupp, and Cooper Kupp went down with that injury. Now, looking at my team, I feel after being up now 2-0 after 2 weeks, I don't feel a need to sell Cooper Kupp. I can wait out on him. I can, flex in JSN. I can flex in Ladd McConkey. We can pick someone up off the waivers. So in that scenario, I would be looking to hold Cooper Kupp. But if you're in a situation where you're 0-2, now clearly you need to start winning some games, right? So if you're in that position, I think you could look at using Cooper Kupp in a trade. It actually sucks that I'll be honest, it really, really sucks that that you also have Waddle with the whole Tua situation. At least JSN broke out, right? I would be willing to shop around J.K. Dobbins just because of the upcoming schedule. If I can package J.K. Dobbins and Flowers, for example, and get like an Alvin Kamara or something, I think that's really interesting to me. But overall, again, it depends on your record right now. I appreciate the donation, man. Miguel, appreciate the donation. These guys are skipping the queue and supporting the show. He says, help me out, Zach. McCaffrey and Pacheco owner here. Oof. Other running backs are B-Rob, Pollard, and Sharbs. Gus Ford, Chuba, Warren on waivers. Should I write it out? To be honest, Miguel, being 100,000% honest with you, my man, if you told me that you had McCaffrey and Pacheco, I would not have guessed that you also had B-Rob, Pollard, and Charbonnet. The reason I'm saying this is I feel like it could be much, much worse. In fact, in any 12-man league I'm in, I can promise you the people who had Christian McCaffrey and Isaiah Pacheco are not in as good of a position as you are. You have two legit starting options every week in Brian Robinson Jr. Brian Robinson looks incredible. Now, he faces a more difficult task in Cincinnati upcoming, But Brian Robinson Jr. looks absolutely incredible so far. You can start him. And Tony Pollard just got a little bit of a boost of confidence with Tajay Spears dealing with that injury. I mean, Tony Pollard is coming off a game where he had 23 touches. So, honestly, if I'm you, I ride it out. I mean, on the waiver wire, you can definitely go ahead and pick up like a Jerome Ford and add that to your room. And, on a week-to-week basis, let's kind of check out the waivers. I also think you're a team that could pick up Samaje Perine or Carson Steele. Again, get in the running. One of those names. Try and, you got to buy a scratcher ticket to win the lottery, right? Oftentimes you won't, but I think you got to be in that race. So, overall, I would just encourage you. You are in a better position than most people would be given the injuries you have to your roster. Thanks for the donation. We got another donation here from Joshua. I appreciate you, Josh. And Josh says, Gibbs, Cook, Collins, Cooper, Mason, Flex is Brian Robinson, Reed, Chubb on the IR, need a wide receiver. Trade Rob Reed for Puka. Okay. I'm trying to read this one. Rob. As in Brian Robinson? So I think you're asking, do you trade Brian Robinson and Jaden Reed for Puka Nacua? I wouldn't be making this deal simply because, again, it's only week 2. And I feel like you really need to win games. If it's a smaller league, maybe, but you actually just put in the chat that it's a 14-team league. I don't think you can afford to do that in a 14-team league. And as long as I'm reading this correctly, just to be clear, I prefer to have Brian Robinson and Jaden Reed over Puka Nacua in a 14-team league. 14-teamer, it's really hard to find options because it's such a big format. And if you're thinking of Puka Nacua, be careful because you won't have him for at least 4 or 5 weeks. So yeah, if it was me, Josh, I would be pretty confidently saying, let's keep the Brian Robinson and Jaden Reed side of the deal. That's the type of trade I'd like to make in 2 to 3 weeks from now. You know what I mean? When you've already gotten the value out of those starting options. All right. We are going to go live for the next, let's say 15 minutes past the hour. When does the game start? Oh, the game is starting now. Okay. I'm going to go live for the next 2 minutes and then we're done, guys. All right. Trade Bigsby and Dobbins for Rachaad White. Yeah, I'm fine with that. If you're in a PPR league, yes. If you're in a half PPR, no. Okay, let's see Avery. We'll find out. Kareem Hunt is coming. Emmanuel says, so I made this trade giving Jonathan Taylor away for Cook. Hope that ages well. As in James Cook, I don't mind that. We'll have to wait and see. Only time will tell. What do I do with Jamar and Ayuk? You keep playing them. You keep playing them every week with confidence. It's going to pan out. I promise you. But guys, Jamar Chase faces the Washington Commanders next week. He might be my wide receiver one in my rankings. How are we feeling about Brian Thomas Jr. and Kirk? Feel great about Brian. Not so good about Kirk. Pick up Rico Dowdle or Carson Steele. I'd rather have Carson Steele personally. No, don't panic with Ayuk. And Kyron Williams, I'm much more concerned after the injuries to the wide receiver room. Helio says, which two out of Kirk, Bigsby, or Benson do I drop for Steele and Braylon Allen? This would be Kirk and Bigsby because he's going to be injured. So, I mean, you can't stash Bigsby, who we were thinking, let's see if he gets more opportunities, and he's dealing with an injury. There's no reason to stash him at that point. All right, last question of the day is from 369. It is a super chat. And he says, pick 2 stashes to grab up. Gus, the Bus, Braylon Allen, Benson, Cam Akers, Bucky Irving. To me, this would be in order. Trey Benson. If you're saying stashes, true stashes, Trey Benson. Then I would probably say man, honestly, at this point, I probably would stash Bucky Irving over Trey. Most of these names you'll need an injury for it to matter, to be honest. So it's impossible to predict. But I guess we go Bucky Irving, then Trey. And for wide receivers, we go Quentin. And probably Tolbert after that. All right, guys, that's it. I appreciate you big time. Thanks for all the donations. Thanks for all the love. Monday Night Football is here. We're going to go give it a watch. Good luck, and we'll see you very, very soon. I hope whatever you need to happen on Monday Night Football happens for you. Love.